if you look at what's happening outside in the world today, of course, with all this unprecedented uncertainty with COVID and the pandemic, is that procurement is, as a profession, has been taken to the next level. We were always fighting for, getting the right amount of attention to say, hey, procurement can be a competitive advantage. We can drive a lot of value. And I think what has happened over the past, 2 months with everything that has transpired is that a lot of companies have realized that procurement is actually uniquely equipped and uniquely qualified to help manage business spending in a better way, to really know where the risk lies, which suppliers you have, what they mean for your business, how they roll up into your supply chain, what contractual obligations you may have, contingencies of one supplier to another. And procurement is uniquely qualified to deliver value in a situation like this. So I think as a profession, we've taken ourselves from what we kind of say from the basement to the boardroom. And I think that what procurement is doing as a profession is fairly similar to what we're trying to do here at Coupa, which is really ensure that we're considered a strategic weapon. And that journey has been going on for a couple of years. I mean, even before the pandemic, and it just has been accelerated. Yeah, I think the biggest thing that we're seeing in the profession, so not just at Coupa, but just as a procurement practitioner, is that risk has given a completely different meaning today, risk in the business, than it maybe did a couple months back. I think that companies realize that if you don't have the amount of information that you require to know who you're doing business with, where they're located, what their financial structures are, contingencies of raw materials or things of that nature. If you don't have that level of visibility, then you could very quickly get yourself in trouble. And so what we've seen in the changes in supply chain over the past 2 months, where factories were shut down due to restrictions by the government or governments forcing certain factories to make certain things. And this is not just in the US, this is not just in Europe. This has happened on a global scale. Employees being furloughed, factories shutting down because their respective supplier couldn't provide their services or their raw materials. It's so unprecedented that risk is put in a completely different perspective. I think what's really, really interesting is that in the very beginning, when this pandemic started, what I heard and what I saw and read is that companies were very much focused on internal. The first thing you do in a time of crisis is very logical. Is okay, I'm going to first focus on things I can control, which is my own four walls. And so immediately companies went into cash preservation mode. What can I do? What can I cut? What cost containment efforts can I do? What can I defer? What can I delay? Purchase orders, can I cancel them? Where are my purchase orders? Some companies have no idea where they are, their commitments. That was the initial reaction. What we're seeing now is, and we're seeing this with our customers, we're seeing this in our platform, but we're seeing this at procurement at large, is that there's a much more an appetite of realizing first, we're in this together. Right? It's not just, and we're seeing this everywhere, yeah? If there's anything that comes out of this pandemic, which is of course horrible, it's this. It's that people realize that you need to collaborate, you need strategic relationships with your suppliers, with your strategic partners internally, but especially within your supply chain, because we are going to get out of this thing. Yeah, it's like I said. I mean, it's having I kind of use the analogy of marriage. I've been with my wife for a very long period of time, and you do go through great times, and you go through challenging times, and especially in challenging times is where either you make it through, and when you do, the relationship is even stronger than before you went through that, right? And so the point of what I'm trying to make here is in the more challenging times, that's when either you establish a real strategic relationship or you don't. And if you don't, then you're gonna get yourself in trouble. You do need suppliers, right? I think for a long time companies thought, oh, you know what, it's very transactional, it's very one-sided. I'm the buyer, I got the wallet, you want my money, now I'm going to negotiate with you and I'm going to beat you up until you cave. And that's not a healthy relationship. And lots of companies have been like that. What happens in a time of high stress is the margins are so thin with those suppliers that the moment something happens, they either go out of business or they will discontinue business with you because they can do business with somebody else. And I believe that the future of procurement is much more collaborative because that's going to drive innovation. Partners will only bring innovation to me if I have a real trusted relationship with them. And so where I think the profession is going, and I think where we're going to be less focused on the transaction and less focused on getting a great price. Yes, we want contract compliance. Yes, we want to manage risk, but it's about where do I drive competitive advantage? And the only way to do that with your supplier is if the supplier is willing to open up their cards. And they would only do that if there is a real relationship based on trust. Yeah, I think first and foremost, try to get yourself away from procurement, but make yourself known for spend management. Right, it's a fundamental shift. A lot of people have the people I talk to don't even understand what procurement is. Right, so it's like, what do you do? I'm in procurement. They'd be like, what are you talking about? So I think we're better off if we call ourselves, head of spend management or whatever, something like that. So because when you talk about spend, you don't immediately make the link to cost because it scares people away. Right, if I'm a budget owner and I believe that all that procurement does is cut cost, then I might not be as excited to work with that individual because you're here to cut my budget. So I prefer to talk about value and spend rather than procurement and cost cutting.